All right, it's Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the Daily Fail, meme review, the software releases, and the websites by plebes. Joining us today, we've got fellow Bitcoiner and host of the Bitcoin Rapid Fire podcast, John Vallis. And before we go over to him and get him in on all the fun, we're going to go check out the numbers. Let's do it. All right, we are currently at a block height of 679,238. Current Bitcoin price, 62,830. That's right. We hit a new all-time high. Nico, what was that?
This is Satoshi, the Bitcoin chicken for anyone who's new to the channel, and he clucks every time the price of Bitcoin reaches an all-time high, which it did! Right, which is why he clucked. But anyways, Phil.
All right, here we go. Chain rewrite days, 606. Total lightning capacity, 1,208.19. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 10.43. Sats per dollar still below 1,600. Very nice. 1,592. And our current all-time high, 64,840.
Woof. Man, bullish. The party has just begun. We have so much left, but Phil, that being said, it's time for
the Daily Fail. All right, everyone. The Daily Fail today is Fast Company. Coinbase's $100 billion IPO provides an alternative investment to Bitcoin. Okay, look. So this is my problem with this, okay? It's the narrative that they set, right? In no way is buying a stock, okay, any kind of alternative to Bitcoin, okay? You're either buying Bitcoin or you're not, right? If you own stock, then you're owning an IP, you're owning an IOU. That's it. It's not Bitcoin. So it's not an alternative to Bitcoin. It's just a stock in a company. Anyways.
Man, listen, he's gonna have fun staying poor. I want to hear John's opinion.
Oh man, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you're buying just another stock that has exposure to Bitcoin and a bunch of other shit coins, which they, in many instances in the past, have unethically pushed on their customers, in my opinion. So this is the narrative that Wall Street is being fed. And to be quite honest, if they gobble it up for a period of time and they keep Satoshis cheap so that we can scoop them up, I don't have a problem with that. So long may it continue.
I like that take.
Amen. I completely agree. Phil, that being said, it's time for
the Daily Meme Review.
All right, everybody, check out this meme. It's not your typical meme. It's kind of, it requires a little bit of an explanation, I guess. Anyways, the meme's brought to us by Symbol Satoshi. No laser eyes, though. That's weird. Anyways, check this out. What in tarnation? And that is Jerome Powell from the Federal Reserve in his 60-minute exclusive, and they photoshopped an ASIC down there. So apparently Jerome Powell is mining Bitcoin. And for that, because it's Jerome Powell, because it has to do with the Federal Reserve, I'm going to give that $100 trillion. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 100 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. And it's worthless, and it's funny because the money actually says, I promise to pay the bearer on demand, and you're paying them shit. Anyways, Phil, what would you give that meme?
I like that. I always love any joke with that bill. Okay, so yeah, that one takes a little bit of work, but I still think it's still pretty funny, but I'm going to give it a solid mushroom.
Ooh.
Phenomenal scores. Yeah,
High praise.
John, what about you? What would you give that meme?
I'm going to reach out here on my desk, and I'm going to give this meme, which I think is fitting given that it's Jerome Powell. And this is a book called The Money and Finances of the French Revolution of 1789, Assignats and Mandats, A True History, including an examination of Dr. Andrew D. White's paper money inflation in France. Boom. Right there.
Boom.
That's what I'm giving it.
Dude, John Vallis has dropped mic'd me, bro. I thought I was like, yo, I got this. And he was like, man, these scores. Okay. What are you saying, Phil?
Hold on. He swims in ice water. I'm putting that out there. Yeah, I'm like, that's all I gotta say.
Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News, sponsored by
crypto cloaks.
All right, everybody. So today I want to talk about something that's most likely going to break the internet, definitely going to break Bitcoin Twitter. And that, of course, is getting Dr. Jordan B. Peterson to talk to the Bitcoiners. And of course, in the vanguard of that effort is Mr. John Vallis himself, Gigi, and Robert Breedlove.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Guys, yesterday when we recorded, I forgot to mention Richard James. He is part of the Bitcoin vanguards that's trying to get Jordan Peterson to come on the podcast. Anyways, back to the show. And of course, all the plebs backing up that just to get Peterson excited with all that engagement, right? He definitely knows about Bitcoin, right? He's tweeted him himself. But what got me really interested, right, was this tweet from John. I read this and I freaked out and I said, Phil, we need to get this guy on the show. I'm gonna read you a quote. A passage, I guess you would call it, from the book that John is reading right now. Check this out. When culture disintegrates because it refuses to be aware of its own pathology, because the visionary hero is absent, it descends into the chaos that underlines everything. Under such conditions, the individual can dive voluntarily as deeply as he or she dares into the depths and rediscover the eternal principles, renewing vision and life. The alternative is despair, corruption, and nihilism. Sounds very familiar nowadays. Thoughtless subjugation to false words of totalitarian. Phil, could you help me out with that word?
Utopianism.
Thank you, Phil. And life as a miserable, lying, and resentful slave. And for anyone who's laughing, English was my third language. Okay. This last passage just kind of ties it up. The sovereign individual, awake and attending to his and her conscience, is the force that prevents the group. That sounds like Bitcoiners. And as the necessary structure guiding normative social relations from becoming blind and deadly. John, when I read that, I'm like, listen, hold on a second. Are the Bitcoiners the saviors? And you know what's very interesting, John, is that Peterson has it down. He has it down, but he doesn't have the tool, right? So, man, what do you think, John?
Well, that's a passage from his new book, Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. And you know, after reading Maps of Meaning, which is another one I have here on my desk, which I highly recommend to everybody. It's 460 pages. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a thick book, but you know, he worked on it for 15, 20 years, and he's trying to articulate the structure of reality, basically, and what upholds reality in a non-woo-woo, new agey sort of way, like in a very methodical and thoughtful way. So in my opinion, Peterson understands a lot. And that passage is a great example of his understanding. I just don't think, like so many of us, he realizes that the most powerful tool ever to facilitate, let's say the role of the hero has now arrived. I think that's the argument that the Bitcoiners would make, is that, and now call it what you will, an alchemical substance, incorruptible substance, absolute scarce money over the internet, whatever. Like, I don't think he yet realizes that is here, nor the implications for that substance or that thing in facilitating the action of the regenerative hero, which is, basically he divides reality and consciousness and also, pretty much everything. This dynamic is represented everywhere of order and chaos, right? Order is both potential and the destructive unknown, like kind of the force of entropy. So everything goes back to chaos, but it's also where everything springs from, ideas and knowledge and that kind of stuff. And then order is basically how we fight off chaos, right? How we control nature to some degree. But the dark side of order, because both of them have the dark and the good and the bad sides. The dark side of order is that it can become overbearing. It can become tyrannical. And so to mediate those two primordial forces, that's the regenerative hero. That's the person that with courage and with knowledge both of the value of the order that's been created before them and on whose shoulders they stand, as well as the value of going into the unknown to bring back something something novel and integrate it into that order, and who has the courage to meet, to do that, right? Who has the courage and the curiosity to do that. That's the regenerative hero. And I think one of the topics that I love exploring is how people change once they come in contact with Bitcoin. And the more they understand it and the more they integrate it into their lives and the more they engage it, the more that change is facilitated. And so what's really exciting to me is I think we've found something that's far more bizarre and strange than we can even imagine right now. Like, I know we're all hyped up about Bitcoin and we love getting cosmic about it. And we do our best to try to just like go to the outer reaches of our minds to try to see like where this thing stops. And I don't think we can, because I do think it's stranger than we can suppose. And we'll only in hindsight be able to kind of connect those dots. But I think we've stumbled on the most powerful tool ever to facilitate the mediation of that process, to become that regenerative hero that both understands the value and the processes that uphold order, but also understand the value and the nature of the chaos. And with that understanding, going forth to try to continue pushing things forward by mediating those two primordial forces. And Peterson gets that so good. And once he realizes that Bitcoin is that tool, is that sword in the stone, is that like almost magical tool that the hero uses to actualize themselves, I think his mind is going to be blown. I'm just hoping that he doesn't see it in too narrow of a domain initially that makes him wind up in shitcoin land, or think that it's, only applicable in a certain economic sense or a certain financial sense or something like that. Like, I really hope he sees it in its broadest scope, which of course is going to be a difficult task, right? Because none of us got this on first pass, and we certainly didn't get the more esoteric elements of it on first pass. But I think he's such a mind that once he digs into it, he'll really enjoy it.
I agree with that completely. I think Jordan Peterson, once he finds something interesting, he really digs into it. But I think that it's very important, John, that he talks to either Robert, Gigi, or yourself, man. Like, it needs to man. If Jordan Peterson becomes a Bitcoiner, the amount of people that he could save, is going to be insane. Phil, what do you think?
I'm not even going to pretend to add anything onto what John just said. Buy Bitcoin. That's all there is to it.
Hey, man.
Learn about Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. You end up realizing that it has many, many different facets, and it's really cool. It's got philosophical aspects. It's got, obviously societal implications. It's really, like John said, we don't even understand its full, the full gravity, the full scope of what it truly is.
The rabbit hole has no bottom, and it just keeps getting deeper. John, the question that everyone wants answered: do you think this is going to happen? Do you think you can make it happen? Do you have it scheduled, or can you not tell us?
A little bit of the last one, but it's looking good.
Okay.
It's looking
good. Let's say, what month are we in now? It's looking good for May.
Looking good for May. Awesome.
That's going to be so lit. I mean, speculatively speaking.
Yeah.
Look, man, I am so excited for that podcast. Look, I don't listen to podcasts. I create content for a living. So it's like, I don't, I go crazy, right? So I listen to Phil's podcast. I listen to his and Pirate Beach Bombs, right? And the one before that, I listened to the one that you did with Sailor. And man, dude, that got me so bullish, I had to tweet about it. And I usually don't do that, right? So, man, I'm so excited for May. You guys heard it here first. Or maybe you've told someone else. I don't know. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the software releases. All right. Looks like the Trezor Suite beta version 21.4.1 was released. That is down below in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you,
21
Phil.
versions, huh?
That's a lot. Yeah, I get it. It took me, I had to process. I was like, I get it now.
What?
But
like everything's on like 0 point something and they're all the way at like 21. Right?
He said 21.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. But before we go, I want to give a shout out to Brent. This guy's legendary. You have to go follow his podcast. It's called the Bitcoin Rapid Fire Podcast. Of course, we're going to put down the link in the description. I'm telling you guys, John's podcast with Michael Saylor is mind-blowing. I highly recommend it. And the one that he's about to do with Jordan B. Peterson is going, like I said earlier, is definitely going to break Bitcoin Twitter, perhaps the internet. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the news from the Bitcoin pleb perspective, and you want to continue hearing the daily fails of the fiaters and shitcoiners, definitely consider subscribing. And we will see you tomorrow for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.